Welcome to the first edition of the 2009 Gazette Weekly Prep Football video. I'm sports editor Gabe Wisnett, joined by Philip Gardner, Richard Walker. We're going to kind of continue to do these videos every week as we did last year and kind of just talk about the things that are leading up to this next week's matchup. To start off, obviously this is the first week of the season. Richard, Phil, talk about one matchup that kind of jumps out to both of you as the season gets going.
Well, I'm looking forward to South Point Clover. I covered that game last year to start out the season at Clover. It was a thriller. Somebody told me after Clover won 48-42 I wouldn't see a better game the rest of the year, and I think that was pretty much accurate. I saw some good games, but that was definitely the top. But I'm looking forward to another good matchup. South Point's kind of rebuilding. South Point, you never really rebuild. They just reload over there. But they've got a new quarterback. They only returned one offensive lineman from last year. And so there is some concern there about growing up, getting some of these new players in. Clover's loaded with 14 starters back from last year. And I just think it's going to be a real exciting game. They're expecting thousands of fans. Started selling tickets on Monday. And so just the great atmosphere from the fans. Great football on the field. I'm just looking forward to that matchup.
Richard, what about you?
And within the county, I'm going to East Gaston Huss game at Hunter Huss, two teams that didn't exactly do what they wanted to do last year. I kind of feel like it's an important game for both teams. I think Huss has 15 returning starters. East Gaston has 13. Not real sure what to expect out of either of them. There's probably more unknown from East Gaston's perspective because they're going into a new conference and they've not played any of those teams in that conference in several years. But just from a confidence standpoint, I think it's big for both of those teams to get going. Hunter Huss has to be the favorite, for the simple fact that Marshall Williams is now entering he's been a starter at parts of all four seasons he's been at Hunter Huss. Kind of a do-everything, run, pass, option quarterback, single back, kind of runs a shotgun formation and can do a lot of different things. I've had some players injured. It got my attention that they beat West Charlotte in the scrimmage because on any given year you're going to usually assume that West Charlotte has more talent than Hunter Huss. So maybe Huss is they're certainly ahead of West Charlotte at this time of the year. Maybe on the fast track to maybe making some noise in the Big South, although they're kind of picked from middle of the pack finish with a lot of teams. Over at East Gaston, they've had a miserable 2 straight years since having arguably the best team in the history of the school in 07. But, a couple of players that weren't able to play last year for various reasons, injury, academics, whatever, in addition to Thaddeus Benton coming back, who is a terrific running back and was really all they had last year. And, I think there's enthusiasm over at East Gaston that hasn't maybe been there for a while.
Phil, talk about another team in the county. Forest View had obviously a banner season for them, winning, doing what they did. What's their biggest challenge this year in trying to duplicate that success or continue and get better?
Well, Coach Chris Medlin keeps telling me the same thing over and over again. You've got to replace the leading rusher, Jarkevis Alexander. You've got to replace the leading tackler, Seth Hazelton. And so there's 2 key pieces on each side of the ball. Somebody's got to really come to the forefront and be a leader on this team. Seeing some signs of that. Kevin Jeter, I thought, ran the ball really well in the scrimmage at Hunter Huss Saturday. He's also got Darian Hancock, who is the bigger, more straight-ahead runner. He sat out that scrimmage, but they're expecting a lot from him. So I think they're going to get it done in terms of running the football. Defensive-wise, it seems like they're going to have several different people here and there. There might not be one standout guy like Seth Hazelton last year, but I think a lot of teams are, a lot of fans even are kind of sleeping on Forest View this year. They're picked really low in the coaches poll in the Big South, but I think they could have a pretty good year.
And Richard, another team, Ashbrook, appears to be going back to a more running style attack after having Jay Boyd, one of the best receiving threats this area has seen in a long time. Now, moving back towards the run, how do you feel like that'll translate for them?
It should help them. The thing with them is I think the last couple of years they've had maybe more talent than their record has indicated, and they've got to kind of get all that going together. I mean, I look at their personnel and see what a lot of the colleges see. I mean, there's a lot of college recruiters that are after a lot of their players, and last year they went 4-8. They were not happy with that. Toomer and Watts make up a really good 1-2 combination at running back, but you look at guys like North Keith Azotis, and Zeke Bigger, who transferred over from Forest View, and they've got some defensive players, and they've also got some good young offensive linemen. So that's the kind of team that, you know, if history holds, that their school should get better as the year wears on. They play, again, a challenging non-conference schedule. Sun Valley, don't know exactly what you got there because there's been so many new schools built in Union County out of the Sun Valley district. I would tend to think that Ashbrook could take care of that, and that might get the momentum turned in a different direction and get them pushing forward in a way that last year it seemed like they were always playing from behind, and it just made it difficult. Really early in practice when their projected starting quarterback, Austin Scott, got hurt, and there was such a stress on trying to get Jay Boyd the football, and they had a hard time with that with 3 different guys playing quarterback. But, you know, the running game has residual benefit of time of possession and giving your defense a little bit of a break. And, again, I think that Toomer and Watts can certainly do that for them.
That'll wrap it up for week 1. We'll be doing this every week. Look for the Prep Football Preview Edition in the Wednesday, August 19th edition of the Gazette. And also, if you ever have any questions or anything that you want to us to talk about, you can send those to sports@gastongazette.com, and we may use one of your questions on our videos. That wraps it up, and we'll see you next week.